I have spent the better part of 2 decades researching nutrition and metabolic health at Imperial College London, and during that time I have witnessed a profound transformation in how British consumers approach food choices. My name is George Jones, and my work in the Faculty of Medicine has taught me that the greatest health challenges we face today are not always the most obvious ones. They hide in plain sight, tucked away on supermarket shelves between cheerful packaging and clever marketing claims that promise indulgence without consequence. What troubles me most is not that people enjoy chocolate or processed foods, but rather that many have no idea what they are actually consuming when they reach for their favorite brands at Tesco, Sainsbury's, or ASDA. The conversation around food quality in the United Kingdom has reached a critical juncture in recent months, particularly following the publication of new research in The Lancet that analysed over 100 long-term studies and found clear associations between ultra-processed foods and serious health outcomes including heart disease, type 2 diabetes, obesity, cancer, poor mental health, and even early death. This umbrella review represents one of the largest examinations of its kind, and the findings are sobering enough that I believe every British consumer deserves to understand what these foods are doing to their bodies at a cellular level. In the UK, more than half the calories we now consume come from ultra-processed foods, and among teenagers that figure climbs to nearly 2/3, which means we are raising an entire generation on products engineered to be irresistible but nutritionally bankrupt. I want to focus today on a specific category that exemplifies these broader concerns perfectly, and that is the chocolate we find in virtually every corner shop and supermarket across Britain. Chocolate is not inherently unhealthy, and I would never suggest that people should eliminate it entirely from their diets, but the vast majority of chocolate brands sold in this country contain ingredients and additives that serve corporate profit margins far better than they serve human health. The difference between a low-quality chocolate bar and a properly made one can be enormous, yet most shoppers have never been given the information they need to distinguish between the two. This knowledge gap has real consequences for metabolic function, inflammation levels, gut health, and long-term disease risk. Let me begin with what I consider to be the most problematic issue across mainstream UK chocolate brands, which is the replacement of cocoa butter with cheaper vegetable fats, particularly palm oil. Cadbury Dairy Milk, which sells more than 350 million bars annually and remains one of Britain's most beloved chocolate brands, contains a minimum of only 20% cocoa solids, which is lower than every other major milk chocolate on the UK market. What makes this particularly concerning is that EU regulations permit manufacturers to blend up to 5% non-cocoa vegetable fats with cocoa butter, and many brands take full advantage of this allowance. When you examine the ingredient list for Galaxy chocolate, for instance, you will find palm fat listed alongside cocoa butter, which means you are consuming a product that contains vegetable fats in addition to the cocoa butter that should be the primary fat source in genuine chocolate. The problem with palm oil extends beyond questions of authenticity or traditional chocolate making methods. Palm oil behaves very differently in the human body compared to cocoa butter, and while it melts at a lower temperature which gives manufacturers a cost advantage and extends shelf life, it does not provide the same richness, depth of flavor, or health properties that cocoa butter offers. Cocoa butter melts at body temperature, which is why high-quality chocolate has that luxurious mouthfeel that cheaper brands cannot replicate. More importantly, the industrial production of palm oil has been linked to widespread environmental destruction, and from a nutritional perspective, it contributes to inflammatory processes in ways that pure cocoa butter does not. Some UK brands have responded to consumer pressure by committing to palm oil-free formulations, and Whittaker's Chocolate stands out as an example of a British manufacturer that refuses to use palm oil in any of their products and ensures their chocolates are devoid of artificial additives. The second major concern I have with mainstream chocolate brands relates to emulsifiers, which are food additives used to help oil and water components mix together and give products a smooth texture while increasing shelf life. Research from King's College London has identified more than 6,000 foods in UK supermarkets that contain emulsifiers, and in the UK alone there are 63 different types of emulsifiers in the food supply that can be identified by their number on a food label. If a food contains an emulsifier, it is automatically classified as an ultra-processed food, and recent clinical trials have begun to reveal that a low emulsified diet may be effective for managing inflammatory bowel conditions including Crohn's disease. Earlier research from Georgia State University in the United States suggested that two commonly used emulsifiers, carboxymethylsolus and polysorbate 80, could unbalance gut microbes in mice and cause weight gain and inflammation. And the authors proposed that the broad use of emulsifying agents might be contributing to society-wide increases in obesity and chronic inflammatory diseases. Galaxy chocolate, Cadbury products, and most mass-market Nestle bars all contain soy lecithin, which is the most common emulsifier used in commercial chocolate production. While the Food Standards Agency maintains that emulsifiers are safe when used in small quantities, the problem is that modern British diets expose people to emulsifiers not just in their chocolate but in thousands of other processed foods throughout the day, and we simply do not yet have enough long-term human studies to understand the cumulative effects of this constant exposure. What troubles me as a researcher is that these additives are entirely unnecessary if manufacturers are willing to use higher quality ingredients and traditional production methods, but those approaches cost more and reduce profit margins, so the industry has chosen convenience and cost-cutting over consumer health. The third issue that deserves attention is excessive sugar content, and this problem pervades virtually every major chocolate brand sold in British supermarkets. The UK government announced a voluntary sugar reduction program in its childhood obesity plan back in 2016, challenging the food industry to reduce sugar content in products by 20% by 2020. The program covered various food categories including breakfast cereals, yogurts, and confectionery, but it achieved only a 3.5% reduction in the average sugar content of products, highlighting the fundamental limitations of voluntary approaches and the urgent need for more stringent regulatory measures. When I examine the ingredient lists of popular chocolate brands, sugar consistently appears as the first ingredient, which means it is present in greater quantity by weight than any other component including cocoa. This matters profoundly for metabolic health because refined sugar consumption drives insulin resistance, promotes inflammatory processes, contributes to obesity and type 2 diabetes, and has been linked to increased cancer risk through multiple biological pathways. The challenge for consumers is that chocolate is inherently a sweet food, and some sugar content is expected, but there is an enormous difference between a chocolate that contains 25 or 30% sugar and one that contains 50% or more. High-quality dark chocolate with 70% cocoa content or higher will naturally contain far less sugar simply because more of the bar is composed of actual cocoa. And this is one of the reasons why I consistently recommend that people shift toward darker chocolates with higher cocoa percentages if they want to continue enjoying chocolate while minimizing metabolic harm. Beyond these three primary concerns, I am also troubled by the lack of transparency around cocoa sourcing practices, particularly given the well-documented human rights abuses and child labor issues that plague the West African cocoa industry where Cadbury sources all of its cocoa. Ethical considerations may seem secondary to immediate health concerns, but I would argue they are deeply interconnected because companies that exploit workers and engage in unsustainable agricultural practices are generally the same ones cutting corners on ingredient quality and prioritizing profit over consumer well-being. Brands like Tony's Chocolonely, Divine Chocolate, and Seed and Bean have built their entire business models around transparency, ethical sourcing, and fair compensation for cocoa farmers, and it is not coincidental that these same brands also tend to use higher cocoa percentages, cleaner ingredient lists, and no palm oil. Recent food safety alerts have added another dimension to concerns about chocolate quality in the UK, particularly regarding imported products that may not meet British safety standards. The Food Standards Agency issued warnings earlier this year about viral Dubai-style chocolate bars that were urgently recalled after testing revealed they contained undeclared peanuts, almonds, cashews, and walnuts that did not appear on ingredient labels. European food safety tests on similar products found undeclared sesame, banned food dyes, and carcinogenic contaminants, and food safety experts have warned that the speed of imported sweets going viral online through platforms like TikTok Shop and Instagram is outpacing UK safety checks. Professor Robin May, the FSA's chief scientific advisor, stated that some imported Dubai-style chocolate products do not conform to British regulations and could pose food safety threats, particularly for those with allergies. And he advised consumers against purchasing any product unless they are confident it is meant for sale in the UK market. These incidents highlight a broader problem with food regulation and enforcement in an era of social media-driven consumption trends, where products can achieve massive popularity before regulatory bodies have had time to properly assess their safety or verify their labeling accuracy. The FSA has collaborated with local authorities to identify several Dubai chocolate items that may pose health risks to allergy sufferers and that might contain additives and colors prohibited from sale in the UK, which underscores the importance of purchasing chocolate from established retailers who source products specifically manufactured for the British market rather than chasing viral trends from sellers operating outside proper regulatory oversight. When I speak with patients and colleagues about making healthier chocolate choices, I emphasize that the goal is not perfection or complete elimination, but rather informed selection based on transparent information about what they are actually consuming. The UK chocolate market does offer genuinely better options for those willing to look beyond the most heavily advertised mainstream brands. Green and Black's Organic 70% Cocoa Bar has been identified as the best supermarket dark chocolate by multiple consumer reviews, starting with vanilla notes before building into powerful bitter cocoa flavor with sour notes and finishing on a lingering sweetness with smooth and quick melting texture that makes it excellent value as an entry-level organic chocolate. Tony's Chocolonely milk has been recognized as the best supermarket choice for milk chocolate despite containing only 32% cocoa solids, which still gives it an edge over Lind and other premium brands in terms of ethical sourcing and ingredient transparency. Other UK available brands worth considering include Montezuma's Chocolates, Divine Chocolate, which operates under a CO-owned model with Ghanaian cocoa farmers who own 44% of the company and earn part of the profit, and Chocolate and Love, which was created by a Danish couple committed to making quality organic and ethical chocolate at affordable prices using sustainable sources including cacao from Panama, Madagascar, Peru, and the Dominican Republic sourced from small family-run farms averaging 5 acres in size. These brands consistently demonstrate that it is entirely possible to produce delicious chocolate without resorting to palm oil, excessive emulsifiers, exploitative labor practices, or misleading marketing claims, and they prove that consumer demand for transparency and quality can drive meaningful change in the food industry. The broader lesson here extends far beyond chocolate to encompass the entire landscape of ultra-processed foods that now dominate British supermarket shelves and constitute the majority of calories consumed by UK residents. Research published in the British Medical Journal has linked higher consumption of ultra-processed foods with significantly increased risk of cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and early death, and nutritionist Rob Hobson, author of Unprocess Your Life, explains that these foods are engineered to taste irresistible while remaining low in fiber, vitamins and minerals, and high in sugar, salt, and saturated fat, making them easy to overeat and potentially addictive while pushing healthier, nutrient-dense foods off our plates. My work at Imperial College London within the nutrition section has focused extensively on the interplay between nutrition and human health, particularly regarding obesity, type 2 diabetes, and gastrointestinal disease. And I can state with confidence based on decades of research that the food choices we make daily have profound cumulative effects on every major organ system in the body. The challenge for British consumers is that ultra-processed foods have become normalised to such an extent that many people no longer recognise them as problematic, and manufacturers have become extraordinarily sophisticated at using health halo marketing tactics to make ultra-processed products appear wholesome through claims about what they do not contain, such as low-fat, sugar-free, or no artificial colours, while designing packaging with earthy tones and images of fruit and grains that suggest natural wholesomeness. I believe we are approaching a tipping point in public awareness about these issues, as evidenced by data from Levercliff Food Industry Consultancy showing that 29.3 million UK adults are already actively avoiding ultra-processed foods, which represents an increase of more than 15% from the previous year, and an additional 9 million people say they want to make changes to their diet to limit ultra-processed food consumption. If this trend continues, within 5 years a projected 38.3 million people could be looking to avoid ultra-processed foods, which would represent roughly half of the UK's population. This shift in consumer behavior reflects a growing understanding that natural unprocessed foods consistently top the list as most important for health, and it suggests that millions of British consumers are ready to make better choices if they are given accurate information and viable alternatives. The path forward requires both individual action and systemic change, including stronger regulatory frameworks that move beyond ineffective voluntary programs toward mandatory reformulation standards, clearer labeling requirements that help consumers identify ultra-processed foods at a glance, and enforcement mechanisms that hold manufacturers accountable when they make misleading health claims or fail to disclose ingredients accurately. As consumers, we can support this transition by prioritizing whole foods, reading ingredient labels carefully, choosing brands that demonstrate genuine commitment to quality and transparency, and refusing to accept that good health and enjoyable food are mutually exclusive goals. When I examine specific brands that I believe British consumers should approach with caution or avoid entirely, the conversation must begin with the Mars Incorporated portfolio, which includes Mars bars, Snickers, Twix, Milky Way, and Maltesers. These products dominate UK supermarket confectionery aisles and represent some of the most heavily marketed chocolate brands in the country, yet their ingredient lists reveal precisely the problems I have spent years warning patients about at Imperial College London. Mars bars list sugar as the very first ingredient, followed by glucose syrup, which means that before you even reach any chocolate-related ingredients, you are consuming two forms of refined sugar in greater quantities than anything else. The milk chocolate coating contains only a minimal percentage of actual cocoa, and when you examine the complete formulation, you find sunflower oil, barley malt extract, and multiple emulsifiers designed to extend shelf life and reduce manufacturing costs rather than enhance nutritional value. Snickers bars present similar concerns, with sugar and glucose syrup again dominating the ingredient list, followed by peanuts, which provide some protein and fat but are surrounded by a matrix of highly processed ingredients including palm oil, skimmed milk powder, lactose, and salt in quantities designed to trigger overconsumption through the combination of sweet, salty, and fatty flavors that food scientists refer to as the bliss point. Twix adds another layer of processing with its biscuit base, which introduces wheat flour and additional oils into an already problematic formulation, and the caramel layer relies heavily on glucose syrup and condensed milk to achieve its texture. These products are engineered for maximum palatability and profit margin rather than nutritional adequacy, and their ubiquity in British households reflects the effectiveness of marketing rather than any inherent food value. Galaxy Chocolate, manufactured by Mars Incorporated and positioned as a premium milk chocolate option, contains sugar as its first ingredient followed by skimmed milk powder and cocoa butter, but then includes palm fat, which serves no purpose other than cost reduction and texture modification. The presence of palm fat alongside cocoa butter indicates that the manufacturer is taking advantage of EU regulations that permit up to 5% non-cocoa vegetable fats in chocolate, and this substitution fundamentally changes the product from genuine chocolate into something closer to a chocolate-flavored confection. Galaxy bars also contain emulsifiers including soya lecithin, and while the brand markets itself as offering smooth and silky texture, this smoothness comes from industrial processing and cheaper fats rather than high-quality cocoa butter content. Cadbury Dairy Milk remains Britain's best-selling chocolate brand despite containing only 20% cocoa solids, which is the legal minimum for milk chocolate in the UK and significantly lower than quality alternatives. The first ingredient listed is sugar, and recent investigations have revealed that Cadbury products now contain vegetable fats in addition to cocoa butter, a change that occurred after Kraft Foods acquired Cadbury in 2010 and began reformulating products to reduce costs. The brand that once represented British chocolate heritage has been steadily degraded through corporate ownership changes that prioritize shareholder returns over product integrity, and long-time consumers have reported noticeable changes in taste and texture that reflect these ingredient substitutions. Nestle products including Kit Kat, Aero, Smarties, and Yorkie bars present the same fundamental issues of low cocoa content, high sugar levels, and extensive use of vegetable oils and emulsifiers. Kit Kat bars list sugar as the first ingredient followed by wheat flour for the wafer component, and the chocolate coating contains minimal cocoa with palm oil and emulsifiers making up a substantial portion of the formulation. Recent investigations in 2025 by Consumer Reports and FDA testing revealed that Nestle's Toll House dark chocolate chips contained concerning levels of heavy metals, which raises broader questions about ingredient sourcing and quality control across the company's product lines. While these specific test results focused on products sold in North America, Nestle operates global supply chains, and concerns about sourcing quality potentially extend to products sold in the UK market. The issue of heavy metals in chocolate deserves particular attention because it represents a contamination problem that even affects some premium and organic brands. Research published in 2024 analyzed 72 consumer cocoa products over an 8-year period and found that 43% exceeded California's Proposition 65 maximum allowable lead levels, while 35% surpassed limits for cadmium. Lead and cadmium enter chocolate through soil contamination where cocoa is grown and through processing and handling procedures, and while no arsenic was detected at significant levels, the presence of these neurotoxic heavy metals poses particular risks for young children, pregnant women, and individuals who consume dark chocolate frequently. The challenge is that darker chocolates with higher cocoa percentages naturally contain more cadmium because it concentrates in cocoa solids, which creates a paradox where the chocolates we typically recommend for health reasons may carry higher heavy metal burdens. UK and European regulations establish maximum permitted levels for lead and cadmium in chocolate, ranging from 0.1 mg per kilogram for lead in milk chocolate up to 0.8 mg per kilogram for lead in dark chocolate, and chocolate manufacturers including Colbert, Valhona, and others have confirmed that their products fall within legal limits while working to further reduce heavy metal contamination through improved agricultural practices and processing methods. Montezuma's, a British chocolate brand that I consider a reasonable alternative to mainstream options, has addressed these concerns transparently and confirms that all their products comply with European and UK food safety laws regarding heavy metal content. This transparency matters enormously because it demonstrates a commitment to consumer health that extends beyond minimum legal compliance. When I recommend chocolate alternatives to patients and colleagues, I consistently emphasize that we should look for products with minimum 70% cocoa content, no palm oil or vegetable fats other than cocoa butter, minimal added sugar, organic certification when possible, and ethical sourcing practices that ensure fair compensation for farmers. Several brands available in UK supermarkets meet these criteria and represent genuinely better choices for anyone who wants to continue enjoying chocolate without compromising their health or supporting exploitative supply chains. Green and Black's organic 70% dark chocolate has been repeatedly recognized as the best supermarket dark chocolate option, offering powerful cocoa flavor with smooth texture and organic certification at a price point that remains accessible for regular consumption. The brand was founded by British environmentalists in 1991 and pioneered organic chocolate production, and while it is now owned by Mondelez International, it has maintained its commitment to organic ingredients and higher cocoa percentages. Hotel Chocolate represents a British success story in premium chocolate manufacturing, and their 85% dark chocolate battens have been rated as the best vegan dark chocolate option in comprehensive taste testing. The brand was founded in 2004 and has built its business around higher cocoa percentages, transparent sourcing including ownership of a cocoa estate in St. Lucia, and a commitment to eliminating artificial flavors and colors from all products. Hotel Chocolate contains cocoa solids with cocoa mass and cocoa butter as primary ingredients, cane sugar in moderate quantities, and soy lecithin as an emulsifier, which remains one of the safer options among food additives. While the brand positions itself at a premium price point, the ingredient quality and cocoa percentage justify the additional cost for consumers who prioritize health and sustainability. Montezuma's offers an excellent middle ground between mainstream brands and ultra-premium options, with their Fitzroy 74% bar containing only organic cocoa mass, organic cane sugar, organic cocoa butter, and organic vanilla extract with no emulsifiers whatsoever. The company was founded in 2000 by married couple Helen and Simon Pattinson, who were inspired by Aztec chocolate rituals, and they have built a reputation for creative flavors, ethical sourcing, and clean ingredient lists. Montezuma's products are widely available in Waitrose, Sainsbury's, and independent retailers across the UK, and their pricing remains competitive with mainstream premium brands while delivering substantially better ingredient quality and cocoa percentages. Tony's Chocolonely deserves special recognition not just for ingredient quality but for their pioneering work on slavery-free cocoa sourcing and supply chain transparency. The brand was founded in 2005 by Dutch journalist Toon van die Keuken, who deliberately ate chocolate bars on television to make himself complicit in chocolate slavery, then reported himself to authorities to force prosecution and draw attention to widespread human rights abuses in West African cocoa production. When prosecutors declined to pursue charges, he founded Tony's Chocolonely to prove that chocolate could be produced without slave labor and still remain commercially viable. The company has developed the Tony's Open Chain initiative, which shares their entire sourcing methodology with other manufacturers, and their products combine ethical sourcing with quality ingredients, including higher cocoa percentages and no palm oil. While their milk chocolate contains only 32% cocoa solids, this still exceeds Cadbury's 20%, and their dark chocolate options reach 70% and above. For consumers shopping in UK supermarkets who want to make better chocolate choices without venturing into specialty retailers or online ordering, I recommend examining own brand dark chocolate options from Waitrose, Sainsbury's, and Co-op, all of which offer 70, 85, and 90% cocoa dark chocolate bars with clean ingredient lists at prices substantially lower than premium brands. Sainsbury's Taste the Difference Ugandan 90% dark chocolate contains only cocoa mass, cocoa butter, and sugar with no emulsifiers, and sells for approximately £1.50, which represents exceptional value for a product that meets all my criteria for quality chocolate. Co-op's Chocolate for Change 85% bar uses fair trade certification and contains cocoa mass, cocoa butter, fat-reduced cocoa powder, and cane sugar with no palm oil, and while it does include emulsifiers, the overall formulation and ethical sourcing make it a reasonable choice for budget-conscious consumers. The challenge with supermarket-owned brand chocolate is that quality varies enormously depending on the retailer and specific product line, and some own brand options cut costs through reduced cocoa content and increase sugar rather than through economies of scale in ethical sourcing. Tesco's standard milk chocolate bar lists sugar as the first ingredient, followed by dried skimmed milk and cocoa butter, with cocoa mass appearing fourth, and while this represents a typical milk chocolate formulation, it offers no advantages over branded alternatives and may actually contain less cocoa than some premium options. The key is learning to read ingredient lists carefully and understanding that the order of ingredients reveals their relative quantities, so a chocolate that lists cocoa mass first followed by cocoa butter and sugar contains more actual cocoa than one listing sugar first. Beyond chocolate specifically, I want to address the broader category of ultra-processed snack bars that are frequently marketed as healthy alternatives when they are nothing of the sort. Research published in November 2025 examined popular snack bars sold in UK supermarkets and found that products marketed as healthy options were often extremely high in sugar and fat, with some containing more sugar per serving than chocolate bars or biscuits. The investigation tested products from major brands including Narkt, Graze, Nature Valley, and various own brand options, and discovered that many snack bars contain between 10 and 15 grams of sugar per bar, which approaches or exceeds the recommended maximum sugar intake for children in a single snack. The problem is that these products use health halo marketing with terms like natural, wholesome, fruit-based, and energy-boosting to create an impression of nutritional value when the actual formulations rely heavily on dates, syrups, and concentrated fruit sugars that trigger the same metabolic responses as refined sugar. I find this category of pseudo-healthy snacks particularly troubling because they target health-conscious consumers who are actively trying to make better choices, and the marketing deliberately exploits the perception that fruit-based sugars or natural sweeteners are somehow metabolically different from refined sugar. While whole fruits contain fiber, water, vitamins, and minerals that moderate sugar absorption and provide genuine nutritional value. Concentrated fruit pastes and date syrups used in processed snack bars deliver sugar without those protective factors. And the end result is a blood glucose spike followed by an insulin response that promotes fat storage and contributes to insulin resistance over time. Parents who pack these snack bars in children's lunchboxes believing they are making healthy choices need to understand that they may be providing products that contain as much sugar as a Snickers bar but without even the protein from peanuts to slow absorption. The solution is returning to whole foods whenever possible, and when convenience products are necessary, choosing options with transparent ingredient lists that prioritize protein, healthy fats, and fiber while minimizing added sugars, regardless of whether those sugars come from refined sources or concentrated fruit. Pip and Nut Dark Chocolate Almond Buttercups represent an example of a snack product that delivers genuine nutrition with protein and healthy fats from almonds, moderate sugar content, and dark chocolate that provides cocoa polyphenols rather than just empty calories. These products cost more than conventional snack bars, but the price difference reflects actual ingredient quality rather than marketing costs. Throughout my career researching nutrition and metabolic health, I have observed that consumer behavior changes most effectively when people understand not just what to avoid, but why certain ingredients pose problems and what specific alternatives exist that provide genuine improvements. The chocolate industry has spent billions of pounds convincing British consumers that their products represent affordable indulgence and everyday treats, and shifting purchasing patterns requires equally compelling information about ingredient quality, health impacts, and available alternatives. The encouraging trend is that millions of UK consumers are already actively seeking to reduce ultra-processed food consumption, which suggests that appetite exists for better options if manufacturers and retailers can be convinced through purchasing decisions that quality and transparency generate sustainable competitive advantages. The regulatory environment must evolve as well, because voluntary programs have consistently failed to achieve meaningful reformulation across the food industry. The UK sugar reduction program announced in 2016 achieved only a 3.5% reduction against a 20% target, which demonstrates that manufacturers will not voluntarily sacrifice profit margins or reformulate successful products unless compelled by regulation or consumer pressure. I believe we need mandatory maximum sugar limits for products marketed to children, restrictions on health halo marketing terms that mislead consumers about nutritional value, and clear front-of-package labeling that identifies ultra-processed foods so shoppers can make informed decisions at a glance without needing advanced nutrition education to decode ingredient lists. As individual consumers navigating UK supermarkets today, we can make immediate improvements by shifting chocolate purchases toward brands with minimum 70% cocoa content and no palm oil, replacing pseudo-healthy snack bars with nuts, fruit, or genuinely clean ingredient alternatives. Reading ingredient lists before purchasing any packaged food and avoiding products where sugar appears first or appears multiple times in different forms, supporting brands that demonstrate genuine commitment to ethical sourcing and supply chain transparency, and accepting that higher quality food often costs more initially but delivers better health outcomes that reduce medical costs over time. These choices require more effort than simply grabbing familiar brands, but they represent investments in long-term health that compound over years and decades.